So many developments you have to create articles of homeowner guidelines, and nobody likes creating all that stuff, because if you make it too limiting, people don't have to adhere to it. If you make it too loose, you get something really ugly. And I think we talked before we came on camera, I think what makes this development so unique and so comfortable is we don't have to worry about that. Like, I know you build a good home. You obviously believe I do too, because you wouldn't have approached me otherwise. Yep. The three architects all do great work. We have a landscape architect in Pebble. Like, we're aligning ourselves with a great team, so we know the outcome's going to be amazing. Welcome to Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today is Thursday Q&A, and we have a special guest in studio. We have Tom and Shaun from Aspect Design Build right down the street in Excelsior, Minnesota. Welcome to the studio, guys.
Thanks, Mark. Tom's been excited to be here for a long time.
Yeah, he's an aspiring podcaster.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a voice of honey on warm bread.
Voice of an angel.
Voice of an angel. We thought, so we're doing a development together over in Orono, and I thought it'd be kind of fun because a lot of people ask me about Honey Hill all the time between our marketing, the email blast, and I thought it'd just be fun for kind of 20 minutes to really just talk about Honey Hill, a collaboration between two builders. You guys kind of brought me in maybe about a year ago. And originally it was going to be 3 lots when you bought it. It morphed into 6, and you guys called up and said, hey, let's do a team up. And it's really opened up. I talk a lot on the podcast about collaboration over competition, and a huge kudos to you guys for reaching out to me and saying, hey, Mark, do you want to partner and do this together? And it's really been really, really enjoyable to work with you guys over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all starts from us being a small company and looking for opportunities that are out there. This land presented itself, and we chased it for I don't know how many months, got it under contract, and then the neighbor came to us and decided that they wanted to sell their piece as well. And so it went from that 3-lot start that you talked about into 6. And we're a small company. Everything's personal to us as far as the builds go. And for us to work through that whole piece, it was great to bring you in. And you're awesome at marketing and that side of it. And then, the way we go about our business and our branding and how we represent ourselves, we were a good match.
Yeah, I think what's nice about it is if everyone on the team is exactly the same, there's a duplication, but I think we complement each other so often. I'm on one extreme, Tom, we jokingly say, is on the other extreme, and then Shaun, you're like the middle tiebreaker. And I think it's been really good because of how different each one of us views the project. And I think from a development, I think that's been one of your strengths in terms of development and layout. And then it feels like you're part of a bigger team because we get to collaborate so often together now.
Yeah, a piece of all of that too is internally it's you're the go, I'm the stop, and Shaun's the all right, let's yellow light this, which is great. But also just the development went from, as Shaun said, we had an 11-acre property, and then all of a sudden it morphed into 18 acres, and it's getting big enough that we need other people involved in this. And obviously you're from the marketing side of it, what we are not,
and leading the market really in that.
Yeah. Yep. Which is awesome. Like, so the collaboration piece of it, we're all part of it. Shaun and I grew up with a hockey background, and in that sports setting, collaboration is a key part of all of it. And what's also, I think you made it clear from the beginning that it shouldn't be a zero-sum game kind of thing in the building industry. And we've felt that way. There's always going to be natural competition and all of that, but that's great. But it doesn't have to be, it's me or you. There's definitely room for all of us. And so,
yeah, we've never had a negative meeting or I wonder what he's really thinking coming out of a meeting or anything like that. It's all been pretty straightforward. And so there's that, like any good relationship, the trust level is there. And
probably would also make why you should definitely invite me to poker night, because I don't really have a poker face, so I can't really keep much inside anyway. I think what's so neat about the development, and for those that haven't seen it or don't know what we're talking about, you can head to honeyhill.com. I know you can also find it on both of our respective websites, Mark Williams Custom Homes as well as Aspect. Is it aspect.com or Aspect Design Build?
You haven't been visiting our website,
I
Mark?
don't know it off the top of my head. I just auto-browse it. It's my home browser, so I don't have to remember it.
It's aspectdesignbuild.com.
Okay. So anyway, they'll all reference to Honey Hill for builders not in our market. It seems like we've done a pretty good job of marketing. I get asked all the time locally from other builders, designers, or trade partners, a year ago when we really sort of launched this thing in terms of branding and the name, and we'll let Shaun talk a little bit about that. But it's been really fun to watch other builders even see our collaboration and say, hey, is there a chance we could get in it. And early on, there were a couple builders that we interviewed that we thought, you know what, if we're going to do a spec home, maybe we bring in a third party. We thought right out of the gate we'd sell them all, just because I was very optimistic. I joked this morning telling Tom, I was like, nobody can sell me like me. So, but anyway, we do have half sold now, which is great. We're in design. You guys are on design. And oddly, or not oddly, it seems like your best lots always sell first. It seems like that's a pretty development known. So the 2 lake lots are the ones that are sold. And so we have 3 more lots. We have people can go on the website and check out the plat map and see what that's all about. But
one of the cool parts about the lot is when we first came upon it and kind of going through the purchase process, that the lake was hard to see. It was overgrown, kind of a property that had been neglected for a number of years. And as we've gone through the process, the lake really opened up to not just the 2 lake lots, but really the whole subdivision, where you can drive in now into the cul-de-sac and the lake shows up, and it's very much part of all the natural setting that's out there.
You're 100% right. And it backs up to the Orono dog part, which is complete woods. And it's very private. We spent a lot of time going through different naming conventions and different thought process of how to market this. And I really love how it's ended, which is where luxury meets nature. What really drew me to the project is it was, at that point in my career, I didn't really want to be in part of a 50 or 100 development. And not that I'm always open to that, but it's like I liked something that fit more me. It was more boutique, it was just more attainable and more approachable. And usually when people come to us and they say, hey, we want to build on acreage, if you want to build on acreage, usually that to me, that's 10 plus acres, 10, 15, 20. And, you're going out to Independence, Medina, Rockford, Buffalo, usually traditionally further west, especially when price becomes a concern. But, like I have 3 small kids and I know you guys have children too. And one of the things that's nice is privacy is nice, but it's also nice to have a bit of a neighborhood. Yeah. And I think what is so appealing about this development is you have the benefit of both. I mean, the acreage lots are anywhere from 2 to 4 acres or 2 to 5 acres, but you're in a 6-lot development. So you've got people, you're going to get both. You're going to get the neighborhood. The kids can walk down the street, play with other kids, play hockey on the pond. But then you also feel like, I also feel like sort of out in the country. Right. That to me, that was the biggest drawing point, and I'm in love with it.
Yeah. I think there is the luxury meets nature, and that's very much a part of it. Going back to the marketing side, I live in Orono, and it's maybe 2 minutes from the schools and hockey rink. And there's people we know that are a part of our community that are like, oh, I just drove by it, or I drove in there, or I see what you guys are doing. It looks awesome, and it's going to be great. And, it's very much a hometown feel to it while still having that, that natural environment.
I mean, it's the ease of access, right? I mean, you're 8 minutes to downtown Wayzata. You're 15 minutes to downtown Minneapolis, on the 394 corridor if you're speeding, Tom.
Maybe with the way you drive.
Yeah. But Leadfoot Williams. So, I mean, the ease of access is super critical. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Orono has just exploded as a school district as well. Yeah.
The piece that to me, I live on kind of 2 acres, a little bit closer in, but the piece to me that I really love about the land is it presents itself as a pretty rural property. And like Shaun said, it was one half of it at least was a hobby farm that had just been neglected for so many years, but it had topography there. It had kind of all the boxes for something you would, or at least I would like as like this kind of rural setting. But again, like you said, still know and can see the neighbors. They're far enough away that you can still keep your distance. And so there's just this combination of topography, there's a lake, there's some elevation changes, the tree cover's awesome.
So I would say is one of the most unique pieces of a subdivision that's any size really is the mature trees that were there and able to keep based on how we kind of split the lots out. Is people go in there and they're like, that tree's amazing and that tree's amazing.
I'm glad you brought that up because we took a lot of trees out of there for one thing. And when you first went in, it was a little overwhelming. I remember walking the land the first time you called me, it was wintertime was it 23 or 24, somewhere in there, December, maybe before Christmas. And we walked out there and it was, but obviously the leaves are down, but it was heavily treed. And of course, you see all the, the bad trees, you see the dead trees, you see the fall trees. And it was so overgrown with buckthorn that you really couldn't see it. It's a little bit akin to a remodel. This property had been on the market for a while. And we actually met with someone the other day that, shout out to Jonathan from Pebble Landscape Architect. He'll be working with us, but he actually said he had looked at it, remember? But it was so overgrown. Now he obviously could see it,
Yep.
just like we can, but I think the average public, I think that's what's challenging when you do development. Obviously we'd love to pre-sell some of this, but once the development sort of, these different layers, like you mentioned, I'm all go. Like early on, I was like, hey, when are we cutting down trees? When are we cutting? And you're like, Mark, we don't even own the property yet. Like I was ready to just like go to town on this thing because I wanted, it needed a haircut bad.
Yep.
And as soon as those trees came down, the road went in. I mean, wow, it really was like, whoa, this is nice.
Yeah, it was interesting that, Jonathan had probably seen it, I don't know, it's probably 2 years ago. And when he was out there just a couple of days ago, he's like, wow, this is quite different than what I remember. And it was the undulation and opening, really being able to see it more, opened up that whole vision for what it is out there.
Well, and kudos to you guys. You guys have spent way more physical time out there than I have. Every time I go out there, I feel like I see Sean's truck. He's pulling buckthorn or he's digging something. And I mean, it was because they, I think history of property is interesting. And we won't spend the rest of this episode diving in all why we named it Honey Hill collectively. You could go hit some of the high
Sure.
notes, Sean, because that was kind of your research department. But it just, I really like a story. And I love branding. People that listen to the podcast know I talk about branding and storytelling all the time. But it was really important for me, and I think for us, for this, the reason it's called Honey Hill is it has ties to, beehive keeping.
Yep.
Was it back in the 30s or 40s?
So
Yeah.
there's a cool little museum in downtown Long Lake that has a history of all local history on not only that area but of Minnesota. And so we did a bunch of research there, and through the years it morphed from early settlement to apple orchard to this honey producing farm, and it was the largest honey producing farm in the state, and it was nicknamed Honey Hill, and so we resurrected that name for the subdivision.
And I would say I'm going to give Shaun a big shout out for that, because I'm guessing if it was you, Mark, or me trying to name it, it would have been something kind of fast and sweet. But
I mean, honey's fast and sweet.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, Shaun, like actually went and spent time. Like he's probably donating to the Long Lake Preservation Society now. It's first one in there under the age of 70 in the last 10 years.
There's some great people in there, not to go too far down this road, but great people in there that grew up and were in the old one-room schoolhouses in Long Lake, and anyway, a little shout out to those guys because they're great at giving that whole background.
I will say, like, there's a bigger piece of all that that's pretty awesome that people are wanting and willing to put the time in to preserve these kind of things, because by and large, stuff like that gets forgotten or lost without, people spending time keeping it alive, which is pretty cool.
Well, I think going back to the team approach, I'm not someone that's going to spend deep time researching that, right? But
Sure.
I think this goes back to the personalities of your teammates, and for those out there that are looking to do development, understanding that everyone has different assets, and I think by everyone having their different interests, and we're always very open to listening to each other. At certain points in time, I'm typically calling Sean, or I'm calling Tom. Lately, it's been Tom. He knows, like, as soon as I drop off the kids, I'll have some crazy idea at like 7:59 or 8:01 right after I drop off Tate. And I'll be like, hey, Tom, what are you doing? He's
You need someone to hit the brakes for you? Is that
It's you or my wife that calls me at 8 o'clock.
I'm perfectly fine with that. Outside of the podcast, we have the Curious Collectives. Basically what this is we get small groups, no more than 30. You get into tables of 9, and we have set topics of discussion. You can see everything that you want on the website at curiousbuilderpodcast.com. You can also find it in other cities. So the collective is going into Phoenix. Brad Levitt is going to be hosting a Curious Collective down in Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to have Brad Robinson and Vince Longo leading a collective in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to have David and Angela Penske down in San Antonio, also leading a collective. And a few other states are coming online later this year, as well, of course, as Minnesota. So if you're interested in getting together with like-minded individuals, this collective is kind of somewhere between what we do at the Contractor Coalition that you hear me talk a lot about. It's also kind of a hybrid of what you see at Builder 20s. So it's a really open format, very much embracing collaboration or competition. If you want to further your education, if you want to increase learning from each other, you definitely want to find out more about these collectives. Being half sold is really, really cool. And I know with how nice it is and with where the things are at, I suspect by this spring or within even just in a month or two, we're going to be sold out. And right now, anyone listening, if you're interested in building, like obviously we'd love to talk with you. I think what's been really refreshing about how we did this is the traditional model is, and this is kudos to you guys. Traditionally, there'd be two builders. You'd pick 3 lots. I'd pick 3 lots. I really like how we did it on this development, which we each got 1 lot to pick. So we each got 1 lake lot. And then clients get to interview both of us because we didn't want to tie, if someone really vibed with you, but it was my lot, like we didn't want that to be the reason. Like you should build your home with who you want to build it with.
Yep.
And that, I think that's a game changer. I really do. I think that's really impressive, and it speaks to our collaboration, but also like I'm just as happy if you get a build as if I do, and I truly believe that because I believe in this neighborhood and I believe in what we're going to do as a team going forward. So I just want the people to be happy, and there's plenty of home sites for both of us.
Well, I think it's just it's a mindset, and maybe towards a subdivision, but even more than that, just as builders, right? You're talking about collaboration and really wanting what's best for the person that's going to live there, our clients, and whether that's helping them to select an architect or which lot or any of that. We're trying to be their advocates in the market, and none of us do enough houses to not take that approach. And so it's like we said, it's personal. You're a helper. You're part of a community. My dad was a log home builder in northern Minnesota, and so I grew up with people coming into our house and writing out what they want on a piece of paper. And so that's what I think of as a build. And so I think that's part of what that means and why it helps to collaborate in the way we did.
I think it'd be refreshing as a homeowner to realize like you have options.
Yeah.
If they're out there, most of these people this is not their first home. So they've done the development game. They've either built before or they've at least known somebody that has. And so I think, obviously we're engaging with real estate agents. And so like, it's not, they're probably more used to interviewing multiple people, but kind of really just delineating like, what are the differences? And the nice thing about, maybe we'll speak a little bit why we chose the 3 architects that we did. We interviewed probably 4 to 6 different architects.
Yep.
And we chose James McNeil Architect, we chose Chisel Architecture, and Christopher Strom. And we felt like that was the best combination of the 3 for Honey Hill specifically. We met with a lot of great architects, and they'll certainly be available for our next ones as well. Mm. But I think those 3 in particular spoke to diversity, but also kind of an overarching theme to Honey Hill that we both resonated with. So many developments, you have to create articles of homeowner guidelines, and nobody likes creating all that stuff because if you make it too limiting, people don't have to adhere to it. If you make it too loose, you get something really ugly. And I think we talked before we came on camera, I think what makes this development so unique and so comfortable is we don't have to worry about that. Like, I know you build a good home. You obviously believe I do too, because you wouldn't have approached me otherwise. Yep. The 3 architects all do great work. We have a landscape architect in Pebble. Like, we're aligning ourselves with a great team, so we know the outcome is going to be amazing. And I just love that there's freedom in that artful expression, so each person isn't limited or handcuffed by what someone else likes.
Yeah, and I think the property has such an identity to it that the professionals that you work with and the clients that choose that property are all kind of looking for a similar outcome and can sort of have that freedom and creative freedom within that, but still sort of play in the same sandbox. And we're excited about what Pebble's going to bring from a landscaping architecture side of it, and sort of that theme that they'll bring through the subdivision as well.
We're in our intro phase. We just had our first design reveal earlier this week. You guys are a little bit further along on lot 4. My clients bought lots 3 and lot 2. And so, it's basically the front 3 lots that are available. But what's unique about them, I think maybe we'll ask everyone this question. Mm-hmm. When you first walked the property, based on value as well, what was your favorite lot if you had to build your own home?
I'd probably take lot 2 with the barn, because lot 2 has a barn on it, and our idea was to keep the barn and kind of work the house in and around the barn. But lot 2 kind of had the space. It's got some elevation. I think it's actually the highest point on the property. So you kind of have a little bit of you kind of have some long view corridor options there, but then you have the dog park tucked in behind it that kind of creates like this little warm fuzzy blanket kind of to the south. So I have not a young family. I have a high school, middle schooler, and a elementary schooler. So just envisioning my family kind of traipsing throughout the land is fairly easy on lot 2.
What was your first instinct?
I think I have to stick with lot 4. And we kind of all determined it was the premier lot. It was, it's a big lot on the lake. I'm a big fan of big views. And so those long views that you're going to get from up on that hill are going to be wonderful. And there's a pond and the lake and a lot of nature to it. A bunch of fruit trees. I think there's 32 fruit trees we counted on that lot. And so there's a lot of potential with that. But, each lot has its own character. And so, if you're going to like lot 5 and 6 and 1, they all have really great redeeming qualities. And so it's a after 4, it's a tough call for me.
It's the reason I bring it up is I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were discussing doing a spec home, I think everyone sort of unanimously picked lot 5 as the spec home lot, which we haven't even talked about till just right now.
Yep.
And I think from a building point of view, like usually the conventional theory is you either build on your most expensive lot or you build on your cheapest lot. So you're selling up or you're selling down, right? Which is either lot 6, 1, or 3 and 4. And I picked lot 5, and so did you, and so did we. Had an architect walk by, and they all said lot 5.
Yep.
And I think for us, it was this beautiful open, had that giant willow tree. If everyone goes on the website or sees our printed material, one day we did drone photography, and 2 horses were running in the pasture. One's a pinto, so it's a multicolored horse, and the other one's a brown horse. And it looks. I showed it to a landscape architect today, and they're like, "Wow, that's such a romantic photo," and it has this really cool vibe to it.
Yep.
But the reason I like lot 5, it was really open. I mean, all the lots are huge, but I like that. You can have, what makes this development special is they can all have ADUs, accessory dwelling units. So I was thinking almost like a compound effect.
Yep.
But I liked it as a builder point of view. If I built a spec home there, I could, I'd center it probably around $4 to $5 million as a package. I could sell up to go higher to the higher end lots if we wanted. But you could also say, hey, this lot has a bit of a premium. We built it pretty big. We could easily bring that down to, let's say, 2.9 or 2.5. I think at the time we were at 2.5. Now just with inflation and cost, it seems like 2.9 is about as low as we can go.
Yep.
And then I think the homes that we're doing right now, I think another reason why partnering with architects and builders of similar quality is, all the homes in there are going to be multi-million-dollar homes, which the only reason I say that is it gives some peace of mind to the people investing in their home, because they know that even though there's several homes that aren't built, it's always kind of troublesome when you're the first person to build. Remember, we had 2 clients that didn't want to be the first. Nobody wants to be the first. Now, whoever comes in is, the benefit of being first is you get first pick.
Yep.
The con is you don't really know what else is going to be built. Well, now we have 2 anchor homes that are gorgeous. That development is really set in tone.
And it was late fall when we actually, brought the road in, finished some of the tree work, did the ponds and some of those items. So it really does have a character to it now, that especially when the snow is off and spring is coming, it's going to come alive too. And so, yeah, lot 5 really has the best value to it. It has all the same sort of redeeming features as like the lake lots, but you're not paying for the lake.
Right.
And it's gorgeous. It has a huge, like this great willow tree on it and a great maple tree on it that maybe sounds silly that you emphasize 2 trees, but they really are spectacular.
Well, and east facing are those 2 giant Norway pines.
Yeah.
And those things have to be 100 feet tall. Both lot 6 and lot 5 get to view those enormous trees. And then I think a 2-story from either one can see the lake.
Yep.
I mean, that's what, again, makes lot 5 just this kind of real gem.
Yep.
If people are trying to go, like you said, value, I agree. Lot 5 is an incredible value.
Yep.
I'm going to say I think lot 1 is kind of a sneaky good value too, in particular, because at least for the time being, as you had your clients buy lots 2 and 3, you're going to have kind of these long south views out of that lot. And it's, again, that one's a little more hunkered down. It's got a small wetland in it, and then it has this dry creek running through kind of out to the west. And I think, whoever puts a house on there, it's going to be a little bit lower, like set down kind of, which I think is pretty cool. And then, I think the architects and, whichever one of us builds on it, is really going to try to figure out a way to get both sides of the wetland or the property on both sides of the wetland to talk to each other. And I think that's just going to be such a unique, cool feature of that when it's all said and done.
I think it's going to feel very grounded. I mean, that home is going to feel very, like you mentioned, kind of sunk or grounded into that lot. I think it's actually one of the most difficult lots to envision. And I give you guys credit on that early on. That Tom, that was one of your first picks. You loved that lot. And now seeing what, Chisel's architecture has done a few renderings for that one. I think it's called the Honey Crisp. They love to name their plans. So shout out to them. I love their naming convention. I designed one on lot 3 called the Dragon. And so I really, I think, again, loving storytelling, talking about it has just been really enjoyable. So, for people driving by, it's off County Road 6 and right by the Orono High School. And anyway, if you want to know more, you can reach out to either one of us, and you can also check out the website. We'll try to keep it around the 20-minute mark on this episode. I think in the future, we'll have you guys come back on, and I would like to do an hour podcast, not only for aspect design build in general, with Tom shaking his head.
Actually, 25 in me.
25. Well, you already passed 25. But then the other option would be, I would love to talk about lessons learned. There's so many people outside Minnesota that do developments, and we have a lot to learn from them, and we've already learned so much of what we would do differently. And I think it's just really important to talk about it because ultimately we're facing a huge housing shortage, not only in Minnesota but across the country. I think it's 110,000 units short in Minnesota alone, and regardless if it's high-end luxury, which is what we build or remodel, but also all the way down the food chain, we need more developers, we need more developments, we need more builders, because people need to live somewhere, and we are way behind. And I know Minnesota's not the only state. I mean, most states are behind. So, kudos to you guys for taking that first step forward, and we're excited to partner with you.
Thanks for having us on, and looking for the next subdivision.
You got it. Yeah, if anyone has a good subdivision, reach out to us. We're starting to write letters.
Let's go.
Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. Tune in every Monday for 1-hour episodes and Thursdays for 20-minute Q&As. If you have any questions, please send us an email at mark@curiousbbuilder.com or go to our website and fill out the contact page to be kept abreast of the latest episodes. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.